So what's going on, guys? Today we're going to be talking about the Eisendrache and looking back at the DLC preview trailer that we got at the start of the week, and looking back at it and looking at a few things that we may or may not have noticed, which is very, very exciting, and it's helping to build the hype for this DLC, which is coming out February 2nd. If you want to see the full trailer as well as a breakdown of a lot of other things, check out the first link in the description. But let's jump into the things you may or may not have noticed. Now, this first one is very subtle, and you may or may not have noticed it because I sure didn't the first few times I watched it, but a load of you guys tweeted me saying that you noticed this, and this is actually the WUNDERFIZZ machine. Now, if you're not familiar with the WUNDERFIZZ machine, it's a Coca-Cola machine that was in the map Origins, and it gives the player a random perk bottle for 1500 points and works a lot like the mystery box, where you can only use it a certain amount of times before a teddy appears and it will relocate to a different area. So what's great about this machine is it allows you to buy perks that are a lot more expensive. Usually you can get them for 1500 points. Now, in Origins there were 6 different locations for the WUNDERFIZZ machine, and that could be very similar in the Eisendrache, but because we're on next gen, this map could be even bigger than Origins, so we could see even more than 6 locations. Now, what's interesting about this machine is there's not really a lot of history or explanation on how it exists. In Origins there's a quote from Richtofen where he goes, the WUNDERFIZZ machine, ancient mysticism harnessed by our technology, which provides a means to aid our survival. Now, we've not seen it in any other maps before Origins, and we've not seen them in Black Ops 3 until the Eisendrache, so there could be some story explanation onto how exactly this machine can exist, who exactly invented it, and why exactly it's in the Eisendrache as well as Origins. Now, this second find is absolutely insane. I can't believe I didn't notice this when I first watched the trailer, because I remember I watched the start of this little gameplay segment of the Eisendrache over and over and over, and I can't believe I didn't notice this. So huge shout out to Mr. Waffle Waffles for pointing this out, but this is insane. So if you look at this kind of little cable car going up towards the top of the mountain, if you look over to the right, you can see something which is quite hard to kind of work out. So I'm going to play this over and loop it a lot of times. You can clearly see this, but if you cast your mind back to the giant, we have a massive giant robot being built in the back of the map, which of course links in with the name, and we have another giant robot on the Eisendrache. Now, the giant robot being on the Eisendrache is really, really important to the story that we don't quite know of just yet, but I feel this is going to play a really important part when we actually play the map. Now, the giant robots are 1,000-foot tall robot abominations, and we originally had 3 of these in Origins which ran around the map. Now, their names were Freya, Odin, and Thor, named after 3 gods in the Norse mythology. Now, these were created by Group 935. We know that because there's a quote on Origins where Richtofen says, "The giant robot may be our greatest scientific achievement, made possible only because of element 115. Now, these robots were created by Group 935 to help the Central Powers win the Great War. Now, there are actually 4 robots on the Origins map. 3 of them are active and roaming around the map, while there's actually a 4th disabled robot which is in the right of Thor's path. Now, we're not exactly sure why it's disabled, but it could potentially be the robot that we see that is being assembled on the giant, because the giant does take place a little bit after Origins, or it could be linked in with the Eisendrache. Now, we know that Origins was set around about 1918 during World War I, and we know that there was a 2-year gap between then and the giant, because in that 2-year gap, Richtofen went around on his absent journeys away from the other 3 characters, collecting an assortment of artifacts to apparently help him and the characters on their journey. So we can say that this map takes place perhaps in around about the 1920s, maybe? The original events of Derice happened around about 1945 onwards, but the stuff you hear on the radios in the original Derice all took place in the past, which is why the giant could take place around about 1920, because all the events that happen in the giant are literally current and there. They happen right there and then as you play, and as you get into the map, you hear that radio of Richtofen sending Maxis and Samantha away, which you hear as a radio message in Derice, which took place in the past. So the giant takes place in the past, which means the Eisendrache is going to take place sometime around about the 1920s. Now, to make things even more confusing, Richtofen goes to Shadows of Evil. We know that at the end of the Easter egg, and that map takes place in the 1940s. So during the 2 years of Richtofen's absence from the characters between the Giant and Origins, he has gone both forwards and backwards in time. So this is just making the whole timeline really confusing. But I'm pretty sure that the Eisendrache is going to take place in the 1920s to 30s, because it seems we go there directly after the Giant, as we get the message from Maxis saying where he's pinpointed our location. He knows when and where we are, and sooner or later he's going to find us, and together we're going to secure a better future for the children, which is the main emphasis of the story in Black Ops 3 Zombies. Now, going back to the Giant robot, I'm assuming the robot is there for a few different reasons. One could be to protect the site, which of course would make a ton of sense because this contains a large amount of very recently discovered element 115, which of course is probably what is powering the WUNDERFIZZ machines, which allow that to exist, as well as potentially some other things as well. But element 115 is not something you find around very easily, so of course people will probably want to try and steal the element, which is probably why the Giant robot is there. But there isn't really an explanation for why the Giant robot has fallen to the ground. It doesn't make any sense. We can see that the robot is clearly still active because its visor still has a kind of orange-yellow light beaming from it. We can definitely see it's fallen on the ground because of its feet looking very similar to the inactive robot on the Origins map. Speaking of the robot on Origins, if you actually take a look at it, it looks very similar to the one that we have on the Eisendrache. It's in the same position, it's fallen down. You can even have the same position with its feet. It's just this one in Origins is missing a head, while this one clearly does have its head, but it does bear a very similar resemblance indeed. The only difference I can really tell between the two is the visor colour, and more importantly, the film on its back. Now, in the original Origins map, all the robots had this kind of weird little cannon on its head that it shoots from, but with this one, it looks like it's slightly upgraded with a much more beefier cannon, almost like a rocket that you can see in the top of its head. Now that ties in very well with the Eisendrache because there are a ton of rockets around the map that are being launched somewhere. We're not too sure exactly, but we know those are going to be playing a big part in the map's story as well. But this little Origins / Giant robot definitely shouldn't be gone amiss when we get more information and of course manage to get our hands on the Eisendrache. I feel it might have some importance. In the Giant, it was a little mini Easter egg where we could get a new perk machine. I doubt it'll be anything similar to that, but I hope it has some sort of importance in terms of the story. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button, I'd really appreciate it, and subscribe for more Call of Duty zombie videos like this one. I'm bringing you guys a ton of them, upload daily, so make sure to check those out. But thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.